It's about that time. Hello, it is 10 o'clock and we're about ready to get started. Oh, man. Yes, it is not 10 a.m. and we are still ready to get started. Look at us being time variable. So welcome to TVR, IETF 123 TVR, even though we say 122 here, that's our error. Ed and Tony here, Secretary Adam, who is online, Gunter, our AD, is here. Let us begin. Oh, indeed. A couple of things. I know we're midweek already, but here is the note well. In particular, by participating, you agree to follow our procedures and policies and the variety of BCPs that we have identified. Just a few comments on IETF conduct and guidelines. We should always be hard on ideas, but not people. So we expect respect and courtesy at all times, which has always been the case. If you are here in person, please make sure that you have joined the Meet Echo. Please make sure that you are registered. And if you come up to the microphone, please make sure that you join the online queue so that we know that you are here. If you are otherwise joining remotely, please, or in person, please keep the audio and video off to save bandwidth and make sure that we are not otherwise interfering. For right now, our agenda is available online. The Meet Echo and other information is in all the standard places. If this is your first time using Meet Echo, I will just leave this up for a moment so that you understand where the various buttons are for joining the queue, for otherwise participating or sharing video or audio. We would like some help with minutes. There's the shared notepad integrated into Meet Echo. If we could have a couple of people just raise their hand or volunteer to take notes, the more people, the better. Having as many people participating in the online note-taking, make sure that we get as much value and memory out of the meetings as possible. So just a general request to please join and please take notes as we go. And I do see a few people in the chat, at least one person in the chat that said they would help. So thank you so much. Our mailing lists are in all the regular places. As a reminder, from a milestone perspective, we did have an initial schedule for how we wanted to get things done. The use cases document is done as 9657. We are a little bit behind on some of the others, namely the requirements document from this past October. However, we believe that that's come along quite nicely. The data model has come along quite nicely, and we are making some progress against the applicability statement, and perhaps November is a little bit optimistic there. And I believe that we had decided that we would likely remove implementation and operational considerations as a working group milestone item because it was covered in other areas. But when we get to that point, that will be a topic for working group discussion. Otherwise, we have adopted the schedule, the requirements document, and the Alto exposure document. We have not yet adopted a TVR applicability document. We are waiting for that to mature a bit more so we understand what it is we are adopting. We will hear a little bit more about our Yang data models, but right now there are 3 models that is in the working group adopted draft, generally a schedule model, a node Yang module, and a topology Yang module, and we'll hear a little bit more about them later today. And here is where we are. So we have this 5 minutes of me going over things that we probably already understand about how to join meetings, and then going into the status of our various applicability and data model and requirements documents, somewhat in reverse order in terms of the amount of maturity and time against them. We've allocated about 10 minutes each for these. However, we also have 15 minutes at the end. So if we do wind up with some level of discussion for each of these different items, that is okay. We can manage the clock. And I want to call just one other bit of attention at the penultimate item is a discussion on charter status and next items. And I hope we can have some good discussion related to that. I'll pause here. I see someone in the queue.
One note on the agenda slide. This is missing an Alto exposure talk right before the charter.
Oh, yes, it is. I have a sense what your question was going to be. So we will do that for sure. Otherwise, if there is no other agenda bashing, we can then start rolling into the first presentation.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Li Zhang from Huawei. I will introduce the TVR applicability draft on behalf of my colleagues. And okay, I can control. So what's new in this version? We removed the use case section and enriched the appendix A to cover every cases listed in RC 96 and 57. We also updated the applicability of TVR model section, and we added the call conf as one of the optional management protocols. We also enriched the optional considerations section and also do some other editorial updates. Okay, so the first question is when the TVR model is applicable. As we know, the TVR young data model draft defines two kinds of young data model. They are the node young model and the topology young model. The applicability of these two models should be discussed separately. So the applicability of node young model is newly added in this version. For the node young model, it depends on whether the topology changes are caused by the environment or caused by the centrally controlled. If the change is caused by the environment, for example, the links may be powered off due to the movement or sunlight changes or even weather changes. So in this case, the node young model is not applicable because these changes are originated by the node itself. And if those changes are caused by the centralized control, in this case, the devices themselves, they don't know when to adjust these attributes. So the topology YAM model is, this is node YAM model is applicable to deliver the schedules to the node to indicate when the node to change the attributes. Okay, so the topology model yeah, has been already discussed in the last IETF meeting, so we didn't change too much for this part. And the result is the topology model is only applicable when the schedule is generated in a centralized manner and also executed in a centralized manner, but on the different devices, all the schedule is generated in a centralized manner, but executed in a distributed manner. Okay, and that's so the second question is how to encode the real model. We have discussed the question in last meeting, but this time we newly added the call conf as the optional protocols. So the conclusion is that the netconf would be the preferred protocol for large-scale critical scheduling operations requiring validation and rollback mechanisms. And the RESTconf would be the preferred protocol for smaller scale or isolated scheduling tasks. And the CallConf would be the preferred protocol for resource-constrained IoT networks, where saving message bias is a priority. Okay, for the time synchronization is the fundamental of ensuring that the TVR mechanisms. So we'll also discuss the preferred time synchronization mechanisms for different TVR scenarios. So in this new version, we replace the word GPS with GNSS, which is Global Navigation Satellite System, which is more general and can be referred to any satellite navigation system in different countries. Okay, so the operational consideration section has been greatly enriched in this version. We discussed the operational considerations from the aspect of schedule dissemination, schedule execution, and schedule recovery and error handling. For the schedule dissemination, the first point is that the manager device that receives a schedule that should have the ability to execute the schedule. It is mainly is to send a schedule to a node that it does not have the ability to execute the schedule. And the second part is before the distributing the managing device need to ensure that the timer is synchronized with that of the managed device. And the third point is the distributing of schedule should be earlier than the earliest start time of the schedules, ensuring the managed device have enough time to execute the schedule. For the schedule execution, the node schedule and the topology schedule should be discussed separately. For the node schedule, it's very easy. The schedule executor just need to undertake action at specified time points as indicated in the schedule. But for the topology schedule, the linking come up or node join to the topology uh, should be have should not have any functional changes until the change is proven to be fully optional. However, if there is a link or node is to be removed from the topology, then the network should act before the anticipated change to route traffic around the expected topology change. For the schedule recovery, it means a node may lose its specific schedule date. This may be, for example, a device restart, then it lost all its schedule data. So once the connection between the manager device and the manager device is established again, then the manager device should redistribute all schedules that the start time is later than the current moment to the manager device. We also list two kind of error handling measures here. They are the schedule conflict, the time parameters of schedule conflicts with each other. This means, for example, the start time is later than the end time, and then the schedule should be discarded. And also there may be conflicts between different schedules. Then all the conflict schedules should be discarded. Okay, and this is the last part we provide we provide a much update in this version. We enrich the appendix A to cover every use cases listed in the use case RFC. For each use case, we provided example topology and also the corresponding TVR node young schedule code examples and also the topology young schedule code examples. Okay, for next step, we also welcome for contributions and comments. And we also want to know if this draft is ready for working group adoption. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have two people in the queue, one of them being me. I have a question 2 slides back.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when we talk about error handling here, I have 2 questions. One is all the way at the first slide, we said that from the scope of applicability, we were only looking at the centralized distribution of scheduling information and not decentralized distribution of scheduling information. And when I look here at error handling, I see if a if a node gets a schedule that conflicts with a previous schedule, then it's something that needs to be considered. And I could see certainly two cases where that would be the case. One is a centralized scheduler has made an error or is making an update, in which case it seems to me that the more recent schedule might be the one to go forward with and not to discard. Alternatively, if this was meant to handle cases of decentralized scheduling, then that might be out of scope for the error handling discussion. And I was just wondering which case you were thinking of when you were talking about error handling here.
Well, for the error handling, the conflicts between different schedules, it means if we have too detailed schedule, if for example, one is start from for link and it start to power on from 10 o'clock, and another is another schedule says this link should be powered off at 10 o'clock. Then these two schedules are conflict. They are both in one year model. So this is not means the conflict from different controller. This is from one controller, but within one year model, the two schedules are conflict.
Okay, that might be something to clarify, and which of the schedules should be discarded and how to look at freshness. I do have one other comment, but let me leave the queue because I see Joel is in the queue, and then come back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You were talking about the need for synchronization of the clocks. And yeah, there's clearly a need for the clocks to end up synchronized. But then I stopped and thought about what is it that needs to be synchronized? And I realized you assert that it's the controller providing the schedule needs to be synchronized with the node using it. And I don't think that's the correct relationship. For example, if the node is getting a schedule to stop using a link because it's going to go away or come into existence because of physics like orbital rotation, then it's critical that the node's clock be synchronized with the physics. That's then the right sync. In contrast, if the node is being told it will be able to use a link or not able to use a link because of management action, then it's that management station's clock that needs to be synced with the node's clock, which is not necessarily the same as the management station providing the schedule. So the node needs to be synchronized with the underlying source of the scheduling information, but that isn't necessarily the thing that's providing the schedule to the node. And so I think, sorry, the problem is much more complicated than you paint it.
I think you are right. Okay, I think we can consider more complicated cases. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I just, Joel, I had one follow-up question to that. In this, is there a need to also be measuring distance and relative or relativity time changes? If we get down to nanosecond or even for further away like lunar, the microsecond resolution? We don't know. Okay, I'll take that one offline. Thank you. Oh, yes. All right, next Yang model, scheduled attributes.
Okay, hi, this is Ying Chu from FutureWay. I'm gonna do an update of the Yang data model for scheduling. So we have presented this draft multiple times. I don't even remember how many times. So basically we have 3 modules in the draft: one basic schedule, one node module, and one for the topology module. So for this draft, we do have a dependency on the IETF net mount schedule young draft, which has already been submitted to IESG for publication. So in that sense, we are okay with it. We can last call this one. And we also did one young doctor early review, and we've addressed all the issues in the document, mainly to add configuration examples. So I'll show the detail later. So on top of some editorial changes, try to make the text clear. One major thing we did is we used to have a container in the schedule.yang file. And so when you do the augmentation, you can just augment this container. So now we, instead of having that container, remove it. When you do an augmentation, you actually do the augment container right here. So you add your preferred name, your preferred container name. So if you look at the trace structure, except you may have a different container name, you don't really see any change. And also we added 2 configuration example. One using the node schedule, the other one using the topology schedule. This is part of the young doctor review. They often always look at examples, make sure we have it. So the first one is the schedule node configuration example. Can any of you look at this and figure out what this example is doing? If not, then we are doing a really bad job. So I don't know this have a pointer? No. Doesn't have a pointer. Oh, anyway, so this one you can see is a interface name is Ethernet.Ethernet1, and we are configuring a schedule ID 100. The start time UTC is 2025 July 20th, 23 o'clock. And the duration is 7200 seconds. That means 2 hours. And that's the first occurrence of this schedule. And the number of count is 10 times. So, and this with every 2 days. It happens every 2 days. So that's what the daily of the description, and the frequency is daily, and the interval is 2. And the attribute is the interface will be off. So hopefully it's clear. And this one is shown in XML format. And the next example I have is the topology configuration. I specifically put in a JSON format, so you can sort of get a feeling of both flavors. In the draft, we do have the both XML and JSON format for each of the examples. So this one is the topology configuration. So we have node ID 2, node 2, and the default available is true. That means regularly the node is always on. And the schedule ID is 201. First occurrence, the start time is 2025, July 20th, 23 o'clock. It's almost the same thing. Duration is 7200 seconds. And this time, last time we said, okay, it will last 10 times. Now it says it will last until 2025, August 20th. So a month, I just configure some random number, and the schedule will be off, and the same, the frequency is daily, every 2 days. Hopefully it's clear to you. If not, please speak up and let us know which part we can fix. And then that's pretty much my presentation. So we want to have the requirement document last call first. So, and then I think this one can go after the requirement document. That's it. Any questions, comments?
I do have one, which is channeling just something that I see from the chat, which is it may suffice for our model to indicate what the time source is so that we can discuss the effects of accuracy and synchronization elsewhere. And so I wanted to know if we could go back a slide or two, if we thought here there was value in some way of augmenting the time source or the nature of the time source otherwise. And that's just a follow-on to the discussion we had with the applicability document just prior. And I'll actually come out of the queue, but again, I'll poke at Joel because he was the one describing it on the chat. If you wanted to join and describe that better than I did, please feel free.
Yeah, so far we don't have anything that's for the time source, but we can add that part into the module, both the topology and the node.
If we can find a way to represent that, it may be useful.
A way to, probably right now gonna be a string. I don't know yet. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll see. I'll see whether there is any existing work. Otherwise, we'll
Okay.
use a string.
All right, thank you. And I see Christian in the queue.
Hi, yeah, it's Christian Hops Laban. When it occurred to me that I kept wanting to say first occurrence, and then you actually used the words first occurrence too. So maybe first occurrence is a better tag. But you asked if it was clear. If I heard you right, you said it's every 2 days, but it says scheduled daily. So that isn't clear to me.
Okay, so, well, this part is actually we are using the night mount configuration, the night mount schedule.yum. So they have it, you can be weekly, hourly, daily.
So it's defining what interval means?
So it's daily, 2 days.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's sort of, yeah. Okay, thank you.
I'll also see Eric in the queue.
Sorry, is this an appropriate time to ask questions or?
Yeah.
Yeah. The, I guess one comment and one question. First, I had need to work on a scheduling component for something, and I checked this document and I found some things very useful. So some things seem very good to me. So thank you very much. But questioning whether or not UTC is the right time. Do we want TAI time? Because I recently had to implement a UTC to TAI converter that undid leap smearing for data centers that use leap smearing and so on.
So this one, we had a discussion before in the working group. Originally, we even have time zone, but everybody decided, it's too complicated with time zone, so it's just UTC only.
I agree, no time zones, 100%.
But you don't like the UTC time?
No, it's leap seconds. It's leap seconds that are an issue. When there's a leap second forward or backward, it might be difficult to represent the correct time, and you certainly won't get millisecond resolution.
Well, really that comments need to go to the night mount schedule, not here, because we are using their grouping.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's in last call, isn't it?
Yeah, that's already submitted to IESC for publication. But I think since it's now published, you still have a, hurry.
It's already come, it's in last, has it come to the IESG? I mean, I can catch it at the IESG, so I'm not too worried about that.
Lou Berger, NetMod co-chair, send it to the list, and we can always pull it back.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good addition. This is a different use case than the general use case that we were considering in NetMod. It sounds valid.
So
And we should discuss it there. One of the other options is an augmentation to it.
Okay. I will send it to NetBot. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. I believe next we'll have Brian Sipos talking through requirements. And while we're getting those slides, or is it also next? Okay.
Brian is notes, but I think I will be the presenter, yes.
Got it.
Thank you. So I will cover the updates on the requirement on behalf of the co-authors, Brian, Lee, and Daniel, and also the contributors. So we were working on progressing the draft, and basically we introduced very small changes. The document is very stable and very basic things that I will comment right now. One was the clarifying the definition of timeline. In the previous version was somehow mixing the notion of timeline and time horizon, so we divided both, and basically now timeline is stated as a discrete or continuous sequence of time defined over a specific time datum, and the time horizon would be the bounded interval of time used to limit the applicability of a schedule or timeline. In the previous version, we added the RFC reference, the reference to the RFC 3339 to the timeline. Now is added to the time horizon. So we have basically clarified both. And then we added as well the notion of a snapshot. A snapshot would be the way of transforming a model with a schedule time variance into one that is time variant and applies into a single time instant. This snapshot concept help us later on, help us to clarify what the next point, which is the execution locality. So with this base in terms of definitions for the execution locality, we also expanded the discussion on the document. We added two potential, or we clarified, let's say, together with the figures, two potential options. The first one would be the combination of a centralized generation entity with a centralized execution that corresponds to the figure on the left. So basically here, the point is this centralized entity will receive a number of inputs, will create the schedule based on those inputs, will generate then a snapshot for configuration, and will distribute this configuration, or we configure, let's say, basically the devices will be configured from this centralized entity. Then the second clarifying drawing is about the combination of the centralized generation and the distributed execution. In this case, the same kind of centralized entity will receive the inputs, but those inputs will create the schedule, and then we'll distribute the schedule to the different managing devices that will execute the configuration locally on each of them. So these were the changes. Apart from that, we do not foresee any further change, so this is why we consider that maybe could be ready the document for requesting the working group last call. We for sure are looking for final reviews, just to be sure that we didn't forget to take anything into consideration, and questions and clarifications are always welcome for sure. So basically this is the status, and basically we make a kind of call for additional comments so that we can go through them. Otherwise we think it's stable and basically ready.
Okay. I do have a comment and a question, but my first comment is I see Eric Klein is still in the queue. I just want to make sure you don't have a comment. Okay. Okay. If we go back a slide, I have two questions. The first is on the second bullet, expanded discussion of execution locality with the combination of centralized generation with centralized execution or distributed execution. Is there a concept in the requirements now related to that centralization is bound to the schedule or any schedule, or is it bound to a schedule for a particular device? And the use case that I'm asking about is if you have two separate entities generating two separate schedules for two separate elements on a single device, is that still considered centralized generation of centralized execution because each schedule only has one authoritative entity? Or is that something different in these requirements?
I think we don't cover that scenario of having kind of two entities. I don't recall that the scenario is considered as part of the requirements. I think
I would pose that may be a situation we find ourselves in where schedulable elements in a device may have different authorities for their schedules.
I'm not sure. I see Brian.
This is
so maybe
Brian
Brian
on
can
also.
clarify.
Yeah, I don't think it's considered, and there probably is a worth in giving a name to the thing, like a scheduled domain or something like that, to distinguish between, like you said, independent, possibly independent things that each have their own schedule and their own timeline.
Thank you. If we could get some discussion of it on the mailing list, that would be good. But that would be question one. Question two is in the chat, there is a sidebar discussion occurring related to the required fidelity of the schedule elements. Is plus or minus 1 second necessary or a problem if we drift? And I think the sentiment is sometimes yes and sometimes no, or maybe mostly no and sometimes yes. Is there what requirements are related to the fidelity of the schedule or the accuracy of the schedule, or do we not make statements on that level of performance requirement?
If I don't have that in my mind, but I think we don't have a specific requirement, just to the alignment on the clocks, and so I think we don't enter into the accuracy. Not sure if Brian can comment.
There definitely are. So this is an informational document explaining what implementations of schedules need to consider and names to give those things. So there is a section about time precision, and at the very least, there's part of a discussion about that kind of consideration, but it does not get into the details of specific levels of precision or accuracy or synchronicity.
Gotcha. And it's just a question, but what I may ask is that for those having the conversation on the sidebar chat, if they can bring that up in the context of the mailing list, we can understand if there's anything additional needed in that language. With chair hat on, a simple question: is there any objection to issuing a working group last call for this document? Obviously, that would be done on the mailing list, but while we're here together, are there any comments related to that request? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll present as well the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And our next and final presentation on Alto, following that, a recharter discussion.
Yeah. So here I will present what was called before the Alto draft, or well, the formal name was using Alto for exposing 10 variant routing information. According to the discussions during the last IETF, we somehow shifted to be more solution neutral, let's say, and talking solution or implementation neutral, and talking about the off-path in general terms. This is why you can see the title in this way. I just kept the draft format, let's say, but this is a point of discussion. The naming, I mean, draft IETF TVR Alto, but this is one of the open points that I would like to ask for advice. So little history on this. The draft was adopted on December the last year. There was a maintenance version that we were through in the IETF 1 to 2. And during this adoption process, where we received a lot of comments, so this new version basically tried to address all of them and basically leave the document aligned with the expectations from the working group. So the summary of the comments is as you can see. So there was a restructuring of the document basically, and we can, let's say, go through the changes clockwise direction. So there was one issue raised by Joel about making the draft not Alto specific. So part of this is the change of the name. So referring to off-path solutions instead of a specific implementation through Alto. And also some description about which is on path, which is off path. And also when we talk about different potential mechanisms, for sure report Alto because it's there, but also consider other potential solutions. So with this, we consider that the issue has been addressed. The second issue, issue number 3 by G, was the point of clarifying the TVR information being exposed. This has been a small sentence added into the introduction. So in principle, should be addressed as well. Issue number 2, raised by Pen Liu, was the clarification of on path of path. So this is why we have this section 2.1 and 2.2 for clarifying what are these notions, these concepts. Issue number 4, raised by Jidong, was the applicability of alto-based TVR information. So now there is a subsection explaining this as a potential solution. And then we introduced some other changes at the time of restructuring the document. One was to document some other off-path alternatives. Probably there could be others. So this, I would like also to ask advice and comments on this sense. I added as examples the network controller, for instance, SDN controller could be one of these entities providing the off-path information, so basically through APIs or whatever, or even the managing device that is described in the applicability draft. But maybe it could be other solutions, so it would be nice to see if yeah, from the working group we can identify some other alternative solutions for this off-path exposure. Then we also improved the security and operational considerations, so we've been adding more details on that respect. And finally, I moved to as annexes, some parts that were before in the main body of the document, like the assessment of ALTO against the document of the requirements document. Also the assessment against the old applicability architecture. Now the applicability draft has changed, so before there was there were some other entities. What more? What else? The identify gaps, all these parts and the implementation details. All these parts have been moved to annexes and probably will be, in some point in time, will be removed from the document, but by now are staying there. So with this, the next steps would be to request the review of 02, especially for those that provide the comments, just to be sure that everything is there and there is no missing points. To recheck alignment against about the requirements draft. The requirements draft is running in parallel, is evolving. So basically to understand if we are missing something with the off-path solution that yeah, should be fixed so that we align with the requirements. The third bullet is about the question if we need to change the IETF TVR alto exposure to something like TVR off-path or similar. If that is the case, we'll generate then the 00 and then we forgot, let's say, the other thread. And with all of these, presenting the updates in next IETF so that we can be sure that it's somehow aligned with expectation and we can keep progressing the document. And this is all from my side. Thank you.
With Chair hat on, it seems reasonable to rename the draft to something like TVR off-path since we've expanded the scope beyond Alto. But an open question, does anyone have an opinion on an alternative name other than TVR off-path? If so, please bring it up on the mailing list. Otherwise, we can put a small poll up there to see if there's a change. And otherwise, I think renaming is the right thing to do.
Okay, perfect. Got it.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next charter item, the next item on the agenda is to look ahead as we start closing out initial charter items. So as we mentioned at the beginning, the use case document is through. As we have discussed already today, the model, the 3 Yang modules and the requirements, even though there may be very small changes coming, are pretty close to going through, and there's not a tremendous amount of energy that we think is necessary to complete those, given the series of reviews from past IETFs. The applicability document is expanding and making good progress, as is the off-path. As we start looking at closing down the existing charter items, the next question that comes up is, are there things that we should be doing next that should be, that we have discovered over the course of this past, roughly 2 years? And so I wanted to open up just generally to see from the working group itself if we had thoughts on things related to TVR that we should be looking at next. Obviously, simply to start the conversation, not to make any decisions. Luis, I see you in the queue.
something that we are trying to analyze, but I'm not sure it will be part of TVR, but I think that is related to the TVR for sure, would be the how to make coexisting the variability of topologies in the satellites and the terrestrial networks somehow. So there will be changes on the satellite that could impact the terrestrial and the other way around. So basically trying to synchronize or to try to identify all these kind of issues. This is something that we are considering internally in Telefonica, and maybe it could be a topic for covering here as well. But also has implications on the normal routing protocols in the terrestrial network and so on. So thinking that the satellites will deliver the traffic in different parts of the terrestrial network, and that maybe in all the constellations, not all the satellites will be active at the same time and so probably trying to understand what could be the problem behind all of this.
Okay, yep, thank you. I see Joel in the queue.
Thank you. I know Tony knows about the issue I'm about to raise. In the IDR working group, somebody brought forward a proposal to do scheduled changes of SR policies. Nothing wrong with that in the abstract, but it didn't reference TVR, it didn't synchronize with the TVR models. It seems like we should be explicit in our charter that we're the point where you bring this stuff together. I'm not saying we tell other groups how to encode things, but we really want the models to end up the same. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a mess when we have different places doing different pieces of this. So that would seem to be appropriate to our charter.
Isn't that already up to the chairs and the ADs to worry about?
I think it's just putting it in the charter would serve as a notice to more people.
So just if I repeat that back, that if we make modifications or propose modifications to the charter, it is to make it more clear that this kind of scheduling reasoning is the domain of this working group, and therefore we should be part of that review, or the work should be happening in this working group.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. That sounds reasonable to me, and so noted. Other items? I will cede with my own question, which is, if we start annotating our nodes with scheduling information that says when something would be available or not available, is there then a secondary set of reasoning related to how we use that for understanding congestion or storage or other elements of determining the appropriateness of path computations, or how that information might or should be useful to other route computation algorithms? And my guess is we have opinions on that.
I'll opine. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously path computation cares, but I don't see how that's going to need to be standardized. You've provided the information, and path computation can pick it up and use it. And it doesn't need to be on the wire further.
Fair enough. I see Eric in the queue.
Yeah, I should have said no hats before, so I'll say no hats again now. One thing that might be an operational issue is the time it takes to enact a change when you get there. So in other words, you might want to schedule a routing change at a certain amount of time, and it might also require, or I suppose the scheduling entity would need to know what the slew rate of an antenna or something like that would be, so that it could plan for that when it issues the command. If I'm making any sense. probably that's a operational issue for the path computation element, and not anything that's part of the scheduling. But the only thing I can think of to answer your question.
I would hope that something like a slew rate is calculated into the schedule between the previous link down event and the subsequent link up event.
Yeah, I think it's incumbent on the scheduler to maintain that. I was just wondering. Yeah, I guess it doesn't have to be part of any information that's sent out. It just has to be known by the entity that's doing the scheduling. Never mind then.
Thank you, Eric. And I see Brian Sipos in the queue.
Yes, on that same topic, I have been taking some notes in the issue tracker for the TVR requirements document, and that is one thing I just noted down was it's probably worth a discussion at least of the concept of including margin like that in a schedule. And because these things are all informational, these are all things that ought to be considered. That seems like something that you don't have to do anything about, but having it as a consideration is worthwhile in a system implementation and design. So I'm taking that as a note for the TVR requirements.
Agreed. Thank you. All right. If there are no other closing comments or any other cue, we do have a short moment of open mic. So separate from anything that might be future work for the working group, are there other things that we would like to discuss? And I see Christian at the mic.
Yeah, actually, before, I just wanted to ask Tony, so just to clarify, what you were saying is that we don't care about how long, like, for example, we don't care about how long it takes the interface to come up. We just would put in the schedule when it was up, right? So we don't need to document how long it takes.
Correct.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
we're putting the event in the schedule, right? And
Right.
presumably that is the time when the event happens.
Right.
If it takes you 5 minutes to bring up an interface,
Put it in, yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, it looks like we are done about 8 minutes early. So thank you all very much, and we will see you at 1:24.
see you in Montreal, eh?